I had been a park ranger at Yellowstone National Park, and I thought I had seen everything the park had to offer. But one day, while on a routine patrol, I found myself lost in the wilderness for 2 days. What I experienced during that time changed my perception of the park forever. It all started on a clear, sunny day in early September. I set out on a routine patrol of the park's southern region, a vast expanse of forest and meadows teeming with wildlife. I had hiked these trails countless times before, so I didn't think much of it when I wandered off the beaten path to take a closer look at a group of bison grazing in a nearby field. As I turned to the trail, I realized with a jolt of panic that I had gotten turned around and had no idea which way to go. I tried retracing my steps, but every path I took seemed to lead me deeper into the wilderness, away from the safety of the ranger station. The night was falling, and I knew I needed to find shelter before it got too dark. I managed to find a small cave on the side of a hill, and I crawled inside, hoping to wait out the night and figure out my next move in the morning. But as the night wore on, strange things began to happen. I heard voices whispering in the darkness, and I felt a cold breeze brush against my face. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but the sense of unease grew with each passing moment. The next morning I set out to find my way back to the ranger station, but no matter which way I turned, I seemed to be going in circles, as if the forest was deliberately trying to confuse me. The trees loomed over me like giant sentinels, their branches reaching out to grasp at me as I stumbled along the path. As the second night fell, I found myself once again seeking shelter, this time in a small abandoned cabin. But the cabin held its own horrors. Strange symbols etched into the walls, eerie whispers coming from the shadows, and the overwhelming feeling that I was not alone. It was on the third day that I finally stumbled upon a group of hikers who had been out searching for me. They took me back to the ranger station, where I was met with both relief and disbelief. How had I managed to get lost for so long, they wondered, and what had happened to me during my time in the wilderness? I didn't have any answers for them. All I knew was that I had experienced something beyond explanation, something that had left me feeling haunted and changed forever. After my ordeal, I couldn't shake the feeling that the park was not what it seemed. There was a sense of unease that lingered in the air, as if the forests and mountains were alive with a dark energy that only those who had been lost within their depths could truly understand. I started hearing stories from other rangers about strange sightings in the park, ghostly apparitions, unexplained sounds, and even bizarre creatures that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Some whispered of an ancient curse that hung over the park, a curse that had been placed on the land by the native tribes who had once called it home. I didn't know what to believe, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something lurking just beneath the surface of Yellowstone National Park. Something that we couldn't explain or understand. And as I patrolled the park's trails and forests, I couldn't help but feel that I was being watched, that some unseen force was keeping a watchful eye on me and the other rangers. Years have passed since my experience in the wilderness, but the memory still haunts me to this day. I left Yellowstone National Park shortly after that incident, unable to shake the feeling that there was something malevolent lurking in the shadows. But even though I no longer work at the park, I still find myself drawn back to it, compelled by an inexplicable need to uncover the secrets that lie buried beneath its surface. Recently, I came across an old journal written by a park ranger who had patrolled the same region where I had gotten lost. As I read through his entries, a chill ran down my spine. The ranger had described seeing strange symbols etched into the trees and hearing ghostly whispers coming from the shadows. He too had felt the presence of something dark and malevolent lurking just beyond his sight. It was then that I realized that my experience in the wilderness had not been a fluke, but rather a glimpse into something far more sinister. The park was alive with an energy that we could not explain, an energy that seemed to be fueled by the spirits of the land itself. As I delved deeper into the history of the park, I uncovered tales of ancient curses and haunted lands, stories that spoke of a darker side to Yellowstone that few knew about. And as I explored the park's wilderness once more, I felt that same sense of unease that had haunted me during my time as a ranger. The trees loomed over me like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching out to snare me as I stumbled along the path. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the faint echo of ghostly voices. And as the sun began to set, I felt a primal fear grip me once more, as if the darkness held terrors that I could not comprehend. As I looked out over the wilderness, I knew that there were secrets hidden here that I may never fully understand. But despite the dangers that lurked around every corner, I could not help but feel drawn back to the park, compelled by a need to uncover the truth that lay hidden within its depths. For better or worse, Yellowstone National Park had become a part of me, a place that held both terror and wonder in equal measure. And as I prepared to set out once more into the wilderness, I knew that the park would never truly release its hold on me, that the spirits of the land would forever haunt my dreams, and that the darkness that lurked within its borders would always be a part of me. I was a seasoned park ranger with years of experience under my belt. I had seen my fair share of strange occurrences in the parks I had worked in, but nothing had prepared me for what I was about to face in this particular national park. The park was nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, with dense forests and steep cliffs that seemed to go on forever. Despite its natural beauty, there was a sense of unease that hung over the area, as if something sinister was lurking just beyond the trees. As I settled into my cabin and began my daily patrols, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Every time I turned a corner or walked through a secluded trail, I felt a sense of dread wash over me, as if I was being followed by some unseen force. It wasn't until my third day in the park that I encountered something truly terrifying. I was walking along a quiet trail when I heard a faint humming sound coming from the trees. I stopped and listened, trying to determine where the sound was coming from, but it seemed to be all around me. Suddenly the humming grew louder, and I felt a cold breeze brush against my face. I drew my flashlight and shone it into the trees, but there was nothing there. I started to walk away, but the humming continued, growing louder and more insistent with each step. That's when I saw it. A figure moving through the trees, its form flickering in and out of view like a ghostly apparition. I tried to call out to it, but my voice caught in my throat, and I felt a sense of terror wash over me. I ran back to my cabin, locking the door behind me and huddling in a corner as I tried to make sense of what I had seen. The humming had stopped, but I could still feel a presence in the room, as if someone was watching me from the shadows. Over the next few days, I continued my patrols, always on edge and constantly scanning the trees for any signs of danger. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, waiting for me. One night, as I was walking back to my cabin, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was tall and thin, with long limbs and glowing eyes that seemed to stare right through me. I froze, unable to move or speak, as the figure stepped closer, its form flickering in and out of view like a mirage. That's when I realized that I was facing something beyond my understanding, something that had been hiding in the park for centuries, waiting for its next victim. I tried to run, but the figure was too fast, and I felt its cold hands close around my neck, squeezing the life out of me. As I gasped for breath and tried to fight back, I saw its face. A twisted, monstrous visage that seemed to belong to a demon from another world. I thought I was going to die, but then I heard a voice calling out my name. It was one of my fellow rangers who had come to check on me when I failed to return to the ranger station. With his help, I was able to break free from the figure's grasp and escape back to safety. But the experience changed me forever. I knew now that there were things in this world that we couldn't explain, things that were beyond our understanding or control. And as I left the park and returned to civilization, I knew that I would never be able to forget the horrors I had faced in the depths of the Appalachian Mountains. Deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, nestled within the dense forests and towering peaks, lies a remote national park that few have ever heard of. Despite its natural beauty and breathtaking vistas, the park is plagued by a sinister past, and there are those who believe that it is cursed. It was in this park that Sarah, a young park ranger, had been assigned to work for the summer. She had grown up in a small town on the outskirts of the park and had always been fascinated by the stories of the mysterious disappearances and unexplained phenomena that seemed to haunt the area. As she settled into her cabin and began her daily patrols, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The forest seemed to be alive with strange noises and movements, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. One evening, as she was walking along a secluded trail, Sarah heard a faint whisper coming from the trees. She stopped and listened, but the whisper faded away, leaving her feeling more unnerved than ever. Suddenly, she felt a cold breeze brush against her face, and she saw a shadow move in the darkness. Sarah's heart began to race as she realized that she was not alone. She drew her flashlight and scanned the surrounding trees, but there was no one there. She started to walk away, but something caught her eye. A strange symbol etched into the bark of a nearby tree. The symbol was unlike anything she had ever seen before. A circle with a line through the center, surrounded by strange runes and symbols. As she stared at it, she felt a sense of dread wash over her, and she knew that she had stumbled upon something dark and dangerous. Over the next few days, Sarah began to investigate the symbol and the strange occurrences that had been reported in the area. She talked to locals and read old reports, trying to piece together the mystery that had haunted the park for so long. What she discovered was both shocking and terrifying. The symbol was the mark of a secret society that had existed in the area for generations. They were known as the Watchers, and their purpose was to guard the park and protect it from outsiders. But over the years, the Watchers had become corrupted, using their power to control and manipulate those who entered the park. They had been responsible for the disappearances of dozens of hikers and campers, using dark rituals and magic to keep the park under their control. Sarah knew that she had to act quickly if she was going to stop the Watchers and put an end to their reign of terror. She gathered her equipment and set out into the forest, determined to uncover their secrets and bring them to justice. As she walked deeper into the woods, Sarah felt a sense of dread wash over her. She knew that the Watchers were watching her every move, waiting for her to make a mistake. But she refused to back down, and she pushed on, determined to see her mission through to the end. Finally, she reached the heart of the park, where she found the Watchers' secret lair hidden within the cliffs. Inside, she found evidence of their dark rituals and sacrifices, and she knew that she had to act quickly if she was going to stop them. With all the courage she could muster, Sarah confronted the Watchers, using her knowledge of the park and her training as a ranger to outmaneuver them at every turn. And in the end, she emerged victorious, bringing an end to their reign of terror and restoring peace to the park. As she sat by the fire in her cabin that night, Sarah knew that she had done something incredible. She had faced down the Watchers and come out on top, proving that even in the darkest of places, there is always hope. I'm a park ranger at Yellowstone National Park, and I've seen some strange things in my time. But what happened last night was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. I was patrolling the park, keeping an eye out for any signs of trouble. It was a quiet night, and the moon was full and bright. The air was crisp and cool, and the stars shone brightly overhead. It was a peaceful night, and I was enjoying the silence. But that silence was shattered by the sound of 3 wolves howling in unison. The sound echoed through the park, sending chills down my spine. I knew that wolves were common in the park, but something about the way they were howling felt off. I decided to investigate, and I made my way towards the source of the noise. As I got closer, I could see the three wolves standing in a circle, staring at something on the ground. I approached cautiously, trying not to startle them, but as I got closer, the wolves turned and faced me. Their eyes glowed in the moonlight, and I could feel their gaze piercing through me. I realized then that these were not ordinary wolves. They were something else entirely. I tried to back away slowly, but the wolves began to advance on me. I drew my pepper spray, hoping that it would be enough to fend them off, but as I sprayed them, they seemed unfazed. They continued to approach me, their eyes never leaving mine. Suddenly, one of the wolves lunged at me, and I stumbled backward. I fell to the ground, and the wolves surrounded me. I could feel their hot breath on my face, and I knew that I was in grave danger. But then something even more bizarre happened. The wolves began to speak. Their voices were deep and guttural, and they spoke in a language that I couldn't understand. I could feel the words vibrating through me, and I knew that they were not of this world. The wolves then began to circle me, their eyes fixed on me. I felt as if I was being examined, scrutinized, and then one of the wolves spoke again. "We have been watching you," it said. "You have been interfering with our plans. We cannot allow you to continue." I had no idea what the wolf was talking about, but I knew that I was in serious trouble. I tried to stand up, but the wolves growled at me, warning me to stay down. "We will let you go," said the wolf, "but know this, we will be watching you, and if you interfere with us again, there will be consequences." And with that, the wolves disappeared into the night, leaving me alone and bewildered. I couldn't believe what had just happened. Had I really just been attacked by 3 paranormal wolves? I made my way back to the ranger station, trying to make sense of what had happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the wolves were still out there somewhere, waiting for me to slip up. From that day on, I was never quite the same. I became more cautious, more aware of my surroundings, and though I never encountered those wolves again, I knew that they were out there, somewhere, watching and waiting. Days went by, and I tried my best to forget about the encounter with the paranormal wolves. But every night I would have the same nightmare. The wolves circling me, their glowing eyes fixed on me, and their deep voices speaking words I couldn't understand. I tried to brush it off as just a strange encounter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about Yellowstone National Park. I began to notice odd occurrences around the park, strange noises in the night, unexplained animal behavior, and even sightings of bizarre creatures that didn't match any known species. One day, I received a call from a fellow ranger who was investigating a strange occurrence on the far side of the park. He had heard reports of strange energy emanating from the area, and he wanted me to come along with him to investigate. Despite my reservations, I agreed to go with him. As we made our way toward the site, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air felt thick and heavy, and the birds and animals around us seemed to have gone quiet. As we reached the site, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, in the center of a clearing, stood 3 wolves. They were the same wolves that had attacked me weeks earlier, and their eyes still glowed with an otherworldly light. I tried to back away, but one of the wolves spoke up. "We have been expecting you," it said. "What do you want from us?" I asked, my voice trembling. "We want you to stop interfering with our plans," the wolf replied. "What plans?" my fellow ranger asked, stepping forward. But before the wolf could answer, a strange energy surged through the clearing. It felt like an electric shock, and I felt my body go rigid. I saw my fellow ranger fall to the ground unconscious, and then everything went dark. When I came to, I was back at the ranger station. I had no memory of what had happened after the energy surge, but I knew that something had changed. My fellow ranger was still unconscious, and I could feel a strange energy emanating from him. Over the next few days, we pieced together what had happened. It seemed that the paranormal wolves were part of a larger group of beings that were trying to manipulate the energies of Yellowstone National Park for their own purposes. And we were getting in their way. We tried to investigate further, but every time we got close to the truth, we were met with resistance. Our equipment malfunctioned, our communications were disrupted, and we even encountered more paranormal creatures that seemed intent on stopping us. In the end, we had to give up our investigation. We couldn't risk our safety, and we knew that we were up against something beyond our understanding. But every time I look out over Yellowstone National Park, I can't help but wonder what else is out there, watching and waiting, just beyond our grasp.